We'll create an outpatient visit. Patient walks into the hospital. Medical staff performs triage. We admit the patient to a department. We'll select the coverage of the patient. I use 3 coverage models. One is the employee/relative, ERG, which represents the employees and the relatives. An individual means an individual person walking and looking for medical service. Service from your facility and a subcontractor scenario. Serving your subcontractor's employees too. So I create another coverage. Backcharge the cost to the subcontractors later. I'm going with the employee/relative, ERG, case now. In this coverage the patient isn't pay anything at all. That is how I define this coverage model. And this is the actual admission patient to the hospital to the GINA department, and this is the hospital. And that's it. If I go to detail of that visit, I can observe the monetary aspect of the services or items given to the patient. But this is an employee/relative, ERG, employee or the relative. So there is no monetary amount for the patient himself or herself. So I calculate the amounts for the employee/relative, ERG, itself, because maybe you want to generate invoice internally for these matters. I don't know. This will be omitted also, easily can be omitted also. These figures will be accumulated, and for a given interval it can be invoiced as a batch. With someone working at the back office. So it so patient doesn't have to pay anything at all. I'm close this administrative file of the patient and go directly the doctor's section to look at the examination. This is the medical form we use for the examination. This is a questionnaire we came up for this department. It an example. It's a sample view, but it show the capability of this screen. You may design your own questions. Information you want to collect as a medical form like you design. a medical form on paper and collect information from patient on the paper. You can do that design and you can collect the information you want from the patient. This is a sample for the gynecology department and it shows a compliance section type of medical history about the patient, the past. Operations. It has a section of the review of the systems. Is there anything wrong? And that's it. This area, this is the anemone section, and this is also. You can record your findings during the examination. There is any relevant open text field about to do that. But you can easily put a free text field also. Write anything you want about that examination as a free form too. And you can add the diagnosis information in too. See. These are the ICD codes. There is a most used list. It might be a helper for the doctor. But otherwise, it's a full list of the ICD codes. You can select those, and you may use those as an early diagnosis. So the department, the laboratory or radiology department use their information to understand what looking for and perform their perform there. Screenings according to that diagnosis type. So I add those information. And after the examination, assume the examination is ongoing. And we are asking of radiology and the laboratory tests to be able understand the conditions, and I'm adding this tests. Put 2 X-rays. Biochemical laboratory work 2. And this will be the end of the first episode of this visit. Patient now leaves the doctor's room to be able to perform those tests. At stage. This is completed. This one is completed. The examination is completed. Now we're going to perform the laboratory and radiology tests inside the hospital. I assume these departments are inside the hospital, but they can be easily outside the hospital too. For laboratory, you need to collect the samples and send those samples to the laboratory. For radiology, you will refer the patient to an external laboratory. But otherwise, if you can still create the records and amend the results to the patient. File like as they were in internal facilities for your facility too. Now I turn back to the visit list, because when doctors ask those tests, those become the waiting request. So a patient can go to a receptionist and receptionist can help. the patient to the correct direction and the information, and also there is an approval stage, which represents patient doesn't took off and go elsewhere but is seeking. For the taking those tests. So we select those and approve those to add them. The file. Now we add those to the file. Now the relevant departments can pick up from there. From their workspaces. This is the laboratory sample sampling department workspace, which they collect the specimen from the patient and send those to the laboratory itself. This can be inside the laboratory, or sometimes they are external to laboratories and use some new pneumatic system. Send samples inside the hospital by means of air pressure or something like that. Sorry. The system is calculated what needs to be collected from the patient. This is are colored according to the color of the containers you may have. This is configurable by you. So we want to collect a blood sample from one tube, and you will use those for, we'll use that for 3 different laboratory study. So in that screen, when I press OK, I acknowledge this fact. Collect sample losses. I have other options in there too. For example, for one type of sample, patient decided to not give that sample because they are not ready to do that, for example, or for any other reason you may delay or cancel that sample collection order on that screen. This is the laboratory technician's workspace. That they use that approval procedure to get those samples in. Into the laboratory. So test will be performed against them. This is my patient, but this one is from a previous attempt. Accept. This patient samples to the laboratory in our case and reject the other one. This is the result entry screen. Now the actual laboratory technician who performed the test used this screen to report the results, and in the result entry, we will select the result values related to tests. A blood group is a selection list type of result, obviously, but a cholesterol, this is a numeric result. I have no idea, but it interpreted as within the range, within the normal range. You can understand that checkbox or the HIV is the negative positive type of. Result. I don't know what is the current. I have no idea. Maybe. Yeah. Doctors help us so that we can put reasonable ranges. To make it quick. Yeah. You can define those. If you want me to go to definition screen and look at what is the reasonable range, we can do that. But finish that first. Okay. Then we can look at those details if you like to do that. Okay. Okay. You see, the equipment isn't manual. We support some type of automation. Read the actual results from the machines and feed the machines. With sample containers with barcodes on it, we can generate those barcodes. And after that I pressed approve. Sorry about it. I have to save those first. Let me quickly play them again. Say negative this time. Now those are pre-approved, which means a technician changed their status as a pre-approved. And if a laboratory doctor opened that screen and approved those results, it will be approved. But in our case these are on pre-approved state because my user does not have that privilege. It keep track of the changes on the test to say change one of the value. And save it again. Now it logged the previous one in with the result date time. The repeat log. Can be important sometimes. It's if there is a data laboratory and can. Perform the test again to be able to sure in this information is also important for the doctor too. And now I approve again this test so we can print the results if you like for the patient. But those results also observable on the patient files too. Finish that and go to the radiology. This is the study list. Ordered for the radiology technician, and this screen is for to keep track of what is performed, which one is performed and which one is waiting, etc. So in this screen we say okay, this is start studying, and after some time, if when it's finished you select it studied, and we log the times between those events. So you can report those in events. Or generate some performance reports according to that information if you like. too. But other than after those tests are performed, this is the result entry screen. We are expecting to generate a report by the radiation doctor or the technician. I don't know how is it the setup. But the idea is you may have templates of parts for the given test. Okay. For example, for A for an X-ray, for A for a chest X-ray, you may have multiple possible outcomes and you can create the templates for those outcomes. So you can easily select those and the system populate those findings and results as a template, and you may you can make quick changes over them if you like to and finalize the report. And the other information about header of the report, patient information, name of the tests, date of the test performed, etc. will be populated automatically to the report. Let me save this one, and look at the other one too. We have other templates there too. Dictated, which we are assuming using dictation. This can be tweaked by your needs. Look at the result of the RAD report. The other information is pulled from the patient file and only the findings and results you entered on previous screens is amended to the report. Turn back to our flowchart. We completed this section and now patient turn. Back again to the examination room of the doctor. So doctor can analyze the results. And draw a conclusion. This is the examination screen, and now radiology and the laboratory tabs are visible because now we have results. When we go to there and we can see the findings of the radiology doctors about this tests. This is also true for the laboratory test. We can observe the values in the normal range and the status of the laboratory testing. So after you may change the type of those diagnosis. This one is now the certain. We delete this one. Or you can keep it. I don't know, and yeah, deletion should be handling. And one possible outcome for this examination can be medicine prescription. So this is the prescription screen. We have the list of the medicine on the circulation, not on the hospital. So patient can go and pick up that prescription from any other pharmacy. That's the idea, and when you put those you can amend the DDD information, and there are some definitions back there that use ATC and DDD information. If access those, you can import that data. System automatically populate the daily do those usage information from that data. And one other's outcome. Might be indication, which means saying patient that you need to take this operation to be able to heal. This is a suggestion at this point. The outpatient doctor put that information on the patient file so you can observe it. This can be an actionable item inside the hospital from other departments you may have. Because after that we have this indications list. You can see this is an indication. Given a patient. Those are the operations. This is the clinic. This is the physician, etc. We'll turn back to this scenario later. But after that we don't have anything left for this visit. Maybe we can. We can create an appointment for a follow-up. We will use that follow-up for the inpatient scenario. And say this is the end of the outpatient scenario. We don't have a specific discharge routine for the outpatient because patient can leave the hospital anytime on its own device. So we don't have any power over to stop them. So we don't have any discharge function for the outpatient in that case. Turn back. We skip the billing. Our chosen coverage type does not require any billing at all. We may start another. Use this as a patient. Populate the missing information. This become a newborn because of the birth date. That's meaningful. We'll create another. Outpatient visit, but we'll use the individual type of coverage. So there is no coverage at all. Patient going to pay the fees by himself herself. And we need to go to details of the visit and generate an invoice and take the collection. From the patient before we send that patient to the doctor's office. This is also configurable. You can say I'm going to collect those fees after everything is finished, or you may say it is not easy for me to follow up patients inside hospital, so I'm going to collect everything beforehand. You can configure this by each coverage type you define. So we need to collect those fees beforehand. So I got in and create an invoice for this patient's current open amount, which is $200. For the examination, we'll create a cash or credit card type of collection. Say $50 with the credit card and the sorry, we need to use the post device itself. The rest of the amount is automatically calculated with cash amount. And we can put I don't know addresses, notes or something like that if you need sure. And system also generates the print of the invoice, so you can print it. Now this is ready for doctor's examination. Come again on the examination. Let put a single laboratory test. And turn back to visit file of the patient. Now we see that there's a waiting request. I approve it as I always do. And now this amount has to be invoiced. Collected also, otherwise laboratory couldn't perform necessary test. And create a second invoice for this lab test, and then I go back to laboratory department. Workflow. Now I can see this in the request. I collecting the sample. I prove that sample and take it into the laboratory by accepting it. And enter the result. Save it and approve it. And that's it. This is how you're going to handle for individual patients. You need to collect amounts from the patients. We may add some other transactions to the patient files. This is not common to do that, but this function it is a workaround. I am going to know not this. The other one I am going to add some drugs to the patient file. This has to be done by only the emergency department maybe, but maybe some doctors perform some type of procedures inside the examination room and use some type of material items while doing that. You can consume those items if you like to. But these are not like prescribing a drug and hand off that drug to the patient and send them away. These are used. This should be used what you consume while generating your service. And we can observe the inventory amounts. Inventory amounts of the material items including drugs inside the hospital. Inside each warehouse. Those represents the warehouses. I show those because what I want to say is that when we generate an invoice on the patient file, we post that invoice to the ERP's ledger system already, and we post that monetary collection to the ERP's treasury system already. So everything is instantaneous. In terms of integrating things with the ERP application you already have. This includes inventory transactions too. Those drugs I consumed is deducted from the inventory.